Welcome to the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. Your co-hosts, Jason Smith and Bryan Bibbo, will inspire and teach you how to prosper in your mind, body, and spirit, not just your financial life. Joining forces with field experts, Jason and Bryan are here to help you focus on what matters most in your life, living well.
Welcome back. All right, the band's back together again. And today, in this episode, we are going to be covering the rest of the holistic wealth management process, the bucket plan. And so, yes, the last episodes in the two-part series, we spent quite a bit of time on discovery because discovery is so important. It's really getting to the core of what's most important, the goals, the background, the history, the experience, education on the investments, everything, insurance, legal, tax, from a background foundational standpoint, crucial for us to really understand. Now, as we move into design and deliver and dedicate it, we're going to describe these three phases of the process, which are typically broken up into a few different meetings. Sometimes it's design is a meeting, deliver is a meeting, dedicated is a meeting. Sometimes it ends up being 2 or 3 more meetings that are needed based on the complexity of the situation and how much work we need to do in between the meetings to put together the plan in its final form. So just from a big picture standpoint, the design is where we're going to do a little bit deeper dive. Dave, do you want to talk a little bit about what design is? And then Bryan, you can kind of give an overview of what delivery is, and then we can talk high level what dedicated is, and then we'll go into the details of design. So Dave, give an overview of what design really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you think about, Jason, what you just said, discover is really understanding where you are right now and what your goals and objectives are. And so naturally, the next step in the process, step 2 here, design, is starting to design where you want to go. So once we have a great understanding of where you are now, we can start to think about where you want to go from a retirement planning, a financial planning, your goals, your objectives, the resources that you've accumulated to be able to meet your needs of whatever your plan or desire is. And so I always joke with clients here, this is where we're going to crunch all the numbers. This is where we're going to analyze your cash flow. We're going to analyze your taxes. We're going to analyze your investments. And we're going to look at how all of these things need to come together to be able to formulate what we would call a holistic plan, right? To be able to get you to what all of your goals and objectives are.
Yeah, great. And yeah, Bryan, give an idea of what happens then and delivery when we move to that phase of the process.
Yeah, when we think about it is we went from getting to know where you're at now, and then we're talking about, hey, analyzing things, starting to crunch those numbers. And as Dave said, is we're building out a plan with you, getting your opinions, getting your feelings, educating you and simplifying it along the way. So when we get into that delivery phase, this is that aha moment, right? I always love to say to people is this is where you're going to get the biggest outcome of this relationship and where we're moving forward, because this is going to give you the roadmap, the template of the financial plan, incorporating everything of the next step forward. We're going to make it more tax efficient. We're going to fill out your bucket plan. You're now, you're soon, you're later. And a lot of what we see is people don't have that soon bucket, right? That preservation phase, whether you're 40 years of age or you're going into retirement, still having that soon bucket is so crucial. So I see that as being a big part of this, but the goal here and the outcome that everyone gets is that aha moment of, hey, now I have a financial plan. I have a tax roadmap. I have all these things into place, and it's all coordinated in one holistic plan.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And when we think about the delivery, it's delivering the plan, right? So that's really at that phase, at that step 3, it's delivering the plan. But really, where a lot of the heavy lifting actually happens is in that dedicated phase. Because the dedicated phase really has 2 parts. And Dave, maybe you can speak to the first part of dedicated, which is really onboarding the client, doing a lot of the heavy lifting, executing the plan, right?
The implementation.
Exactly.
The implementation, getting the wheels in motion. We're here to assist you to get those wheels in motion. I said delivering the plan, but once we've worked out the plan and we feel a lot more comfortable with it is, guess what? We're helping you implement that plan. I'm sure, Dave, you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I think most of the clients that are coming to meet with us, they don't want just a plan. They want execution and implementation and proactive oversight to make sure that all of these things are working in their best interest. Guys, I'm building an addition to the house right now, and the first step I had to do was hire an architect to build a blueprint. That architect gave me the blueprint, and I can surely tell you that if I didn't go hire the builder, that blueprint would pretty much be worthless to my wife and I, right? We needed the builder to actually take that blueprint. And if I look outside right now, the foundation crew is just dug out and laid the foundation for this addition. And they're going to be building the rest of the renovation on top of that. And I think that's what Dedicate really is. In step 3, when we deliver the plan, we outline what our recommendations would be, what some strategies and solutions would be to help our clients get from point A to point B in the most efficient manner, to maximize their rate of return, to minimize their taxes, to secure a reliable income stream throughout retirement. But what we put on that paper isn't going to magically transform your retirement. It's about implementation. So in step 4 of our process, our dedicated step, the first component is now saying, all right, you've accumulated all these resources over here. You have your company 401k. You've got some stock options. You've got some post-tax investment accounts. Maybe you have a Roth IRA, life insurance, pensions. You have your taxes that you're doing every year. Maybe you have a trust or a will. How do we get all of that from what you've accumulated over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years to be able to deliver what you need to really move into this next phase of whatever your life is going to be? Maybe it's retirement. And so again, a lot of it is how do we take your assets where they are and get them to where they need to be able to actually drive the plan forward.
Yeah, and there's the delivery is interesting because it's everything you just described, Dave. But then after that, it's once you build the house, you got to maintain it, right? You got to manage it, right? And that's the management arguably is even more important than everything because ultimately you create the blueprint, right? You build the plan and then you go ahead and execute the plan. But if you don't take care of it, it just falls apart, right? And then ultimately 5-10 years later, things are outdated. Things aren't being managed appropriately. So let's talk about the management of it. What happens in that kind of second part of the dedicated phase of maintenance and management of the plan?
Well, Jason, in the first episode, we talked about what we call the 5 pillars of holistic wealth management. And for me, like the definition of wealth management is just proactive engagement around optimization and maximization of all of your financial resources. And so when we look at these 5 pillars of holistic wealth management, number 1, financial planning. Number 2, asset management. Number 3, tax management. Number 4, protection planning. And then last but not least is legacy planning. It's really the continued coordination, maintenance, and upkeep of all of these things, because I'm sure the same has happened in both of your personal situations with your family is your goals and objectives change over time. Your situation in life changes, and that means your financial plan is going to change. Just because we put a written financial plan together for you today doesn't mean that's set in stone. And so as your life evolves and changes, your financial planning needs are going to change. If your financial planning needs change, maybe your asset management needs change. Maybe your investment portfolio needs to be tweaked because now your goals and objectives are different. Of course, if your investments are tweaked, maybe your tax situation has changed and we need to make sure we're delivering proactive tax management. As your life changes, maybe your protection planning needs have changed or adapted. And last but not least, legacy planning. I mean, how often have we seen that clients' legacy planning desires change when they have grandchildren, for example? And so the fourth step here, this dedicated phase, means that you have a trusted partner in our advisors to be able to continually communicate these ever-changing needs that are occurring in your life to make sure that all 5 pillars are up to date. And one of the mistakes that I know I've seen many clients make is they've taken care of some of this stuff. Maybe they got a will or a trust, or they bought life insurance when they had their first child, or they set their investment asset allocation when they were working and accumulating money. And it was more of a set it and forget it strategy, right? They shoved those life insurance policies in their safe. They filed their trust away. They just accumulated via their annual contributions to their retirement plans, but they never really took the time to do a deep dive assessment of, are all of those things still up to date to meet all of their desired goals and objectives as their life is unfolded. And I see actually that being the biggest value we provide to clients. It's not coming on board and getting an initial plan. The initial plan is like, it's a great foundation. It's if we were planning a cross-country vacation, it's the map. But the real fun of that cross-country vacation isn't planning and putting it in writing. It's experiencing everything along the way. And that's what we do with our clients. We help them maximize their fulfillment, their experiences, and ensure that their wealth is meeting their goals and objectives along the way.
Yeah, and I think, Jason, you said in the beginning, right? This is a holistic wealth management process. This isn't just I'm building you a plan. It's the plan and the management, to Dave's point, and also it's the things along the way that we're making sure we put into place. But let's start peeling the onion a little bit back, Dave. I come in to see you. We had such a great discovery appointment. Let's start off that design. Let's just start off that design meeting. What does that look like?
Yeah, well, the first thing is we're going to start to need to get a lot of data and get organized. A messy house remains a messy house. We got to get the house cleaned up. And so what we're going to request from you, Bryan, is a lot of your documents. So I'd like to see a copy of any of those things that I just mentioned, your retirement account statements, your brokerage statements, your life insurance policies, your tax return, any legal documents you have, like a trust or a will, your insurance policies that you have. And what we want to do is really get all of this organized and help educate you on what you have and understand why you have it. And what we find is that when we get you very organized on what you have and why you have it, we might find, to the analogy of me building this addition out here, that you already have a great foundation, and now it's time for us to start doing all the framing work to build your beautiful house and then furnish it and set up all the rooms like you want to be able to meet your goals and objectives. Or we might find there's a big crack in your foundation and we need to really solidify the foundation of what you have before we start building the frame and the house on top of it. So everything in design starts with organization and analysis of what you've already done, what you already have, and most importantly, why you have it and how it fits into your future goals and objectives.
Let's talk about how we organize too, because I think there's a lot of value that people get out of this, that maybe one of the spouses kind of organized and took care of everything, but the other one was kind of out of the loop and didn't really understand what was going on, or God forbid, if something happened to that spouse that did take care of everything, the other one would just be, overwhelmed, scrambling, searching, having to go through every piece of paper in the household to piece it all together. So let's talk a little bit about what we do, almost like a hard copy format, the family estate organizer, as well as digitally. There you go, Dave. For those of you watching, you can see a visual of the family estate organizer on camera.
No, I mean, I think you bring up a lot of valid points, Dave and Jason here. And during that data gathering, Our goal is to also, maybe one of the spouses handled everything, or you're a single individual. What does that look like? You bring in these bank statements. How are they titled? Let's have the education of, are they going to transfer on death, or are they just going to go to the will? Your 401ks, your IRAs, how have you chosen those investments? Where did you accumulate them along the way? Who are the beneficiaries on those? And I always love to ask is like, where do you see this fitting in your financial plan? Because, Dave, I'm sure you see it as people have this one asset or something. They go, oh, I got this because of this. And they have a story to tell. And where does it fit within that financial plan is so crucial. And other people like close to retirement, I got Social Security. Educate me on that. I don't know what it is. I know it's out there, and one day I'm going to be able to pull off it, but I don't know if I'm pulling it at 62 or 70. How's it integrated in my financial plan? So as we have you bring in those documents, and as Dave showed us building up the family estate organizers, what we're doing here is we're going through each one of these documents and talking them through with you so we can get an understanding of how you feel you're going to use it, and is it in the right position it's currently in? Is it tax efficient? There's a lot of synergies we start marrying here throughout this process to make sure it's getting to that end goal of the implementation and the management of the financial plan.
Yeah, getting everything kind of organized. And Jason, as you mentioned, so many clients just like having this physical binder. I know my wife is the same way. My wife, we're like the exact opposites. I'm a total tech geek, and she like hates technology. She still uses a hard copy calendar to write out all of the events that she's got upcoming, where I'm like, how do you not just use your phone for this? So we're like a yin and yang when it comes to that. And like for a lot of us that are more tech, we like to see all of this in software. And so in step 2 in our design meeting, one of the things that we have the ability to do is start to get a lot of this organized in financial planning software so that a client can come in and see everything that they have up on the computer screen. And what that allows us to do is start to financially model out different scenarios. Because the one thing about financial and retirement planning is there is not a one-size-fits-all solution for everybody. Everybody's got unique goals and objectives, and they've got different appetites for risk and volatility. And so, again, one of the things that we like to do is analyze and model out different what-if scenarios. What if you retire now? What if you decide to work for 2 more years? What if you take Social Security now? What if you delay Social Security to age 70? What if you decide to start spending more of your pre-tax retirement money now versus your after-tax money? How does that impact your taxes? And so the software allows the financial advisor and their team to analyze a lot of these situations behind the scenes. I know for my clients, like they don't want to sit there in the meeting and watch me analyze all of these things. That would be like watching paint dry for a lot of people. This is a lot of the heavy lifting and the work that our teams do behind the scenes so that we can prepare what we feel are the most optimal recommendations and strategies, which of course then we present to the client in step 3 when we deliver their plan. But again, many clients like the organization of having all of their important documents in the family estate organizer. Again, going back to my wife, if God forbid something were ever to happen to me, she knows to go in our fireproof safe in my closet, and she can get the family estate organizer to be able to work with our team at Alison Wealth to settle all of the estate and everything that she would need to do. Hopefully that doesn't happen for a very long time. Whereas other clients, they love to be able to log into an online portal, see everything that they have, see real-time values, and be able to see the math and the science behind what recommendations we're making and why we're making those recommendations through more in-depth financial modeling.
Yeah.
So Dave, in addition, and Bryan, both of you guys, let's kind of big picture. As we come into design, we are having a lot of educational conversations, and analyzing kind of beneficiaries and how things are positioned. A lot of the more minutia and detail starts to get looked at in design, where discovery was more big picture and figuring out where they wanted to go or what their situation was or is. In this design, other than kind of doing that and organizing everything into the family estate organizer or digitally as we start to move and get everything organized, let's talk about some of the other things that happens from an education standpoint in that design meeting. And I think a couple things I'd like to hit on. One is around the volatility tolerance analysis, where as we get a better idea of what all the assets are and how they're currently positioned, scoring those assets and what the importance is there. And then the other would be the pyramid of risk, right? Talking about how we utilize that to both educate the client and understand their previous experiences from an investment and insurance standpoint.
Yeah, we start off with the bucket plan philosophy and going over that now bucket, which is your safe and liquid money. And some people like 0 to 12 months worth of savings, or maybe you have a wedding coming up that you have to pay for. Those kind of things are what the now bucket suits for. And now I just met with a couple the other day, and we're going over their now bucket. And I said, if you walk into retirement, which they're going to in the next few years, how much money do you even want to see in that now bucket? Right now they have 10,000, but they were looking, you know what? For us, we probably want 100,000 in there. So we need to assess and get an understanding of how much do we need in that liquid and that safe, that now bucket. Then we have the soon bucket. Is the money you're going to live off of for the next 10 years if you're going into retirement? Or someone, as of Dave, your soon bucket was probably to pay for this house addition, right? So when you think of that, it's the soon bucket is meant there to be not so aggressively invested, more conservatively invested and meant for income. In a lot of cases, it's going to cover that next 10 years. But if we have that now bucket, we have that soon bucket, we've bought ourselves a time horizon for the later term. This is where we can be more focused on growth-oriented assets. Because one big thing is income-producing assets and growth assets are usually not the same, right? There's a lot more volatility with those growth assets. And if you have a time horizon, because we have that now, that soon bucket, you're able to enjoy the rewards of investing in the later term. And that's why we put that later bucket in place. Other things like legacy planning. God forbid, like Dave used the example, if I'm gone, what's going to happen to my wife and kids? So there's all that planning that goes into the later bucket. But it's also the education of, hey, what's different investments? Are you going to have the same risk tolerance of your soon bucket that you're going to have in your later bucket? I kind of alluded to not. And then there's other strategies like you're 10 years out from retirement, 5 years out from retirement, maybe right on the finish line of retirement. There's different strategies like a flooring strategy that we can use, a portfolio yield or a drawdown. And I won't go into all those grave details. You have to sit down with us to get that secret sauce, right? So with that being said we're taking that soon bucket and that later bucket and we're giving it different scores. And Dave, I want you to speak a little bit about that, is kind of transitioning to saying, hey, what's that volatility tolerance analysis look like? Because we've probably all done them in our life. Whether you've had a 401k and you're just answering questions online and it gives you a spit back answer, but that's looking at kind of all your assets and giving them one score, where the volatility tolerance questionnaire we have is very unique. Dave, you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I always use this kind of gross analogy from our friend John Wheeler. Jason, I know you know him well. He always would say 2 people can eat tacos before riding a roller coaster and have very different outcomes. And I think that's kind of an adage to stock market investing, right? Not everybody has the same tolerance for stock market volatility, particularly as they approach retirement and they're going from this accumulation phase to distribution phase. So there's really just a couple steps that make this simple. Number one is, as Bryan mentioned, we need to understand how much money you're going to need in the short term, the intermediate term, and the long term. The short term is your now bucket, the next year or two. The intermediate term might be the next few years, all the way out to maybe the next 10 years. And then the later bucket is where we know we have a long time horizon and we have the confidence to invest the rest. The later bucket, quite frankly, is the easiest bucket to invest because we know we're not going to have to take any withdrawals or income from that bucket of money. And so we could really allocate it from a stock market, bond market, real estate market, alternative investments to really just try to generate the most amount of growth given the amount of risk or volatility that you're comfortable with that allotment of money. The now bucket is quite simple because that's really just money in the bank or cash equivalents. And, in today's day and age, we're actually getting compensated pretty well. I know I'm getting 4 or 5% on my cash right now, right? Whereas 2-3 years ago, Bryan, what were you getting on your cash?
I think it was just collecting dust.
Yeah, collecting dust. That's a good point. You'd be lucky to get dust.
Right.
You must have a good bank if you were getting dust. I wasn't even getting dust. But the soon bucket is the challenging one for most people, right? Because the soon bucket is the allotment of money that we want to have invested for growth to offset inflation. We just want it invested more conservatively so that if there is a big downturn in the market, this bucket of money doesn't experience that full downturn or loss. And for many of our clients approaching retirement, we need this bucket to be designed to provide a reliable income stream for a certain amount of time. For some clients, that might be 2 or 3 years. For some clients, that might be 8, 9, or 10 years. And every client is different. I have a client, very high net worth. He's got huge pensions. He's got a big appetite for risk and volatility in the market, incredibly educated investor, and he just wants 2 or 3 years of income in his soon bucket because he wants all the rest of the money out in his later bucket, and he understands the trade-offs or the consequences of that, and he's okay because he has a big safety net of a huge pension to support him. Whereas a lot of our other clients, maybe they're not as fortunate enough to have a big pension and they want more certainty around their retirement income. Maybe they want 8, 9, 10 years of retirement income in their soon bucket. And even further down the spectrum is we have some clients who want just pure lifetime guaranteed income coming out of that soon bucket where they don't have to rely on the stock market to derive their income. So there's so many different ways that we could design that bucket plan for the client. But we utilize a tool, as Bryan and Jason mentioned, called the volatility tolerance analysis. And what this does is it's really an algorithmic set of questions that really helps self-assess what your willingness or appetite is for volatility and risk with your soon bucket, and then separately a separate set of algorithmic questions to basically assess what your appetite or risk tolerance is for your later bucket investments. And what we've found is that if we score the buckets separately and you honestly answer this assessment, it's going to help you stay the course when things get a little hairy in the stock market, which seems to happen every 3, 4, 5 years, right? It's just markets are volatile. And the people who generally have adverse outcomes are the ones who act irrationally or their behavior drives them to make a bad decision. I mean, Jason, you dubbed this freak out risk, right? It's the people who freak out and they cash out all their retirement assets because they're scared to death that they think the market is going to go to zero and that their investments are all going to go down. And we know the market is volatile. But again, by having that now, soon, and later bucket, by assessing the proper amount of volatility or risk in each bucket, we could help understand and build a framework of what your comfort level is. And then last but not least, it's then filling in the right investment strategies to achieve your goals and objectives, your income needs, and then match your buckets to the correct volatility. And there's a universe of investments. We utilize a tool called the pyramid of risk that we educate our clients on in this stage of the process that kind of just walks everybody through the trade-offs of things like highly concentrated individual stock or alternative investments like cryptocurrency or hedge funds or oil and gas, all the way down to very diversified investments like mutual funds or ETFs or very diversified individual stock portfolios. It walks our clients through what things like annuities are, what life insurance is, government bonds, cash savings, CD, money market accounts, real estate, all of these different things that we could utilize as an independent wealth manager to help construct and fill the buckets to achieve your desired goals and objectives.
Yeah. Dave, just to summarize, I mean, you walked us through a lot with that, and what I said is, just for the audience, we went through that bucket plan philosophy. We're educating you on that. And then we're scoring each bucket with the volatility tolerance analysis of, hey, how much appetite for risk do you have in each of these buckets? And as you said, Dave, to each is their own, right? Everybody's tolerance is a little bit different. You gave that example of the guy you work with. He only wants 2 to 3 years worth of income. He's willing to take all that risk on, and that might not be the same appetite as everyone else. To each is their own there. And I love the pyramid of risk because you go from that higher risk to that medium risk to that lower risk. But you're educating you on all the different investments that are in the universe out there, and then you're helping us decide which ones fit in your financial plan. I always tell people this is not a one-size-fits-all kind of financial plan. We're getting all of your data, learning about you, listening to what you have to say, and making this unique to you. And once we have a lot of this data, it brings us into what I love to do. It's starting to sketch that bucket plan in front of people. I think that's one of the biggest aha moments I have working with people. And again, I was just doing it not too long ago. And I'm sitting there sketching out, hey, how much money based off of income would they need in the soon bucket? So we're walking through that here. And I'm sketching the bucket plan just driven by math. We're not talking about financial products by any means, right? But we need to know is everyone has these different goals, your income gap, the money you need based off the guaranteed income you have coming in, how much needs to go into your soon bucket. And like Dave, you would have the conversation, that guy only wanted 2 years or 3 years worth of income in the soon bucket. And then I see more people want 10 years just because if we lived the year 2000 to 2009, the market was down over that decade, right? So everyone has the ability to be a part of this. I always tell people we become that team. And when we sketch that financial plan in front of people, it's, the lights start turning on. They feel like they're a part of that process. And we're filling up the buckets right in front of them. And they're seeing the dollar amounts and how much they actually need to maintain their lifestyle.
Which is so crucial to doing the volatility tolerance analysis, right? These things all go together. And they all happen sequentially and almost at the same time. And as you guys know, sometimes you're sketching out the bucket plan, you're scoring the volatility tolerance analysis, you're standing up, and we usually have a whiteboard right behind us, and we're explaining the different types of investment, high risk to low risk, because all three of these, they all kind of happen during the same conversation, because we want to understand what their experiences are too. So it isn't just about us educating them on how these investments work. This is also about what experiences they've had, right? In the past, when there's been downturns in the market during the financial crisis, how did they react? How did they feel, right? What investments did they have? What experience some people are all about mutual funds and the diversification and the comfort level because that's what they know. Other people are like, nope, I only want individual stocks. I don't want mutual funds. You have some people that are like, I love the idea of having a pension and a guaranteed lifetime income, and they are attracted to annuities for that stability and that reliability of a check. And then other people are like, annuities? No way. I'm like, don't put annuities in my plan. So the importance of this whole dialogue that happens all at the same time is sketching out their bucket plan with the dollar amounts and the investments they currently have, scoring the soon bucket separate from the later bucket, using the pyramid of risk not just to educate, but also to understand their past experiences.
Thank you for listening to the Holistic Wealth and Health Podcast. We hope we inspired you to make changes so you can live your best life. If you want to find out more about what we do, or if you want to have a holistic wealth and health financial plan, please call 456-833-7000. please subscribe to the podcast and share it widely with your friends and family. Financial planning and advisory services are offered through Prosperity Capital Advisors, PCA, an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Ohio. J.L. Smith Holistic Wealth Management and PCA are separate, non-affiliated entities. PCA does not provide tax or legal advice. Insurance and tax services offered through J.L. Smith Holistic Wealth Management are not affiliated with PCA. Information received from this podcast should not be viewed as individual investment advice. Product discussions and illustrations are hypothetical in nature and will vary based on many factors, including, but not limited to, age, health, product, insurance carrier, and product design. You should consult the insurance carrier website and policy for detailed information. For information pertaining to the registration status of PCA, please contact the firm or refer to the investment advisor public disclosure website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov. For additional information about PCA, including fees and services, send for our disclosure statement as set forth on Form ADV from PCA using the contact information herein. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money.